In this video, I aim to be discussing the differences, similarities, and also the overall output of Hotshot and Aces and Eights. We're just going to be comparing the sets at base as well as their chest and backpack talents. Nothing else thrown in, so forget about perfect focus or perfect chain killer. We're just looking at the sets. Welcome to Did You Know? Right, so Hotshot versus Aces. Pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses, and what one actually hits harder. However, due to the fact of how these sets work, it's not so much really what one hits harder, it's what one's able to consistently hit harder. And the answer here might actually surprise you, despite the fact that I'm always told one of these is obsolete. Anyway, how are we going to be looking at these builds? Well, like I said in the intro, we're going to be looking at just the builds at base. So effectively what I'm looking at is this for Aces, 4-piece Aces and Eights. We're going to go with 2 improvised just to show that we're getting to 100% weapon damage. We are looking at the classic M44 carbine. I kind of feel like that's a pretty stable area. We're not worrying about any sub attributes and no extra headshot damage. We're just going to be looking at the headshot damage from the weapon and what the gear set itself gives us. Then likewise again for Hotshot, 4-piece Hotshot, 2 improvised chest and backpack, classic M44 carbine. After comparing just the 4 set bonuses, we're going to do it again, comparing their chests, then comparing their backpack talents, and then comparing them again together with chest and backpack talents both active. So 4-piece, 4-piece with chest, 4-piece with backpack, and then 4-piece with chest and backpack. However, before we do this, let's actually have a look at what these gear sets both give us. The 2-piece, the 3-piece, the 4-piece, the chest, and the backpack talents. Up first, we have the 2-piece bonuses. For Aces and Eights, this is 15% MMR damage. For Hotshot, we have 30% MMR damage and 30% stability. No guesses what one wins here. Not only is it more MMR damage, we are also gaining stability, which is arguably actually one of the biggest downfalls of MMRs. Most MMRs are pretty damn accurate regardless, and to be fair, where their bolt action accuracy doesn't come into it as much as you would think it would do, it's more the sway of the reticule that kind of becomes a problem. If you're going more for a DPS style MMR, accuracy is now a problem. That's when you see that bloom happen after every shot on your reticule. Now we have the 3-piece bonus for both Aces and Eights and Hotshot. This is 30% headshot damage. This stat individually puts them both perfectly even. However, adding in the previous 15% MMR damage for Aces and Eights and then the 30% MMR damage from Hotshot, at this point it is very clear which one the winner would be. Now for the 4-piece bonuses. For Aces and Eights, we have Dead Man's Hand. Flip a card when landing shots with a marksman rifle. After 5 cards are flipped, the damage of your next shot will be amplified by 30%. More shots are enhanced for better hand revealed. 4 of a kind, 4 shots. Full house, 3. Aces and Eights, 2. For Hotshot, we have Headache. First shot with a marksman rifle will increase the next shot by 20%. Second consecutive headshot with a marksman rifle will give 10% armor. If at full armor, it will give you bonus armor to a max of 50 of your current armor value. Third consecutive headshot will refill the magazine. From the 4th shot onwards, agents will get all 3 bonuses for each consecutive headshot kill. Missing a headshot will reset the cycle. Now there is something I actually want to go over here. From a practical standpoint and from a damage standpoint, Aces and Eights has Hotshot beaten easily. For a start, 30% amp beats out a 20% amp. The second one is, just hear me out, you're a baby sniper, you've not done it that much, you're learning. You hit, miss, hit, miss. After 10 shots with aces and eights, assuming body shots, you will still get that 30% amp. After 6 shots with aces and eights, assuming headshots only, hit, miss, you will still get that 30% amp. With hotshot, hit, miss, you get nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Also, with aces and eights, once you have that buff, that 30% amp, depending on your play, weirdly, I don't know why it's called aces and eights, because the buff aces and eights, the 2-shot one, is the worst one. At minimum, you will require 3 shots to reapply the buff. Full house gives you 3 shots. 4 of a kind gives you 4 shots. From a mathematical standpoint, this means you've got roughly a 96% uptime on this buff. Missing also does not consume a buffed bullet. If you have aces and eights, 2 bullets buffed by 30% amplified, and you miss a shot, you don't have 1 bullet left, you still have 2. It will only consume a buffed bullet if you hit. However, hotshot. The first shot gets nothing, the exact same as aces and eights, where the main difference actually lies within these 2 builds is after the first bullet, assuming you hit, hotshot gets a buff where aces will require you to at least get 3 shots from base. However, with hotshot, after you get your first kill with a headshot, you then get your 20% amp. This will only apply to the second bullet. It will not apply to the third bullet. The third bullet will give you 10% armor regen or 10% bonus armor, depending if you have full armor or not. The third bullet will refill the magazine. That's it. It's not you get nothing, headshot bonus plus armor, headshot bonus plus armor refill. That only comes into play from the 4th shot, and if you miss a shot, you are penalised. You get all of it removed. Start again. Now, from a damage perspective, they're both pretty much identical. Aces does just edge out on top by 2%. 2%. That is it. And the only reason for this is 30% amplified versus 20% amplified. That's the only reason. The flip side to this is, though, that you're able to get your hotshot up and running quicker and easier than you are with aces. Again, on another flip side, with aces, it's continuous. It doesn't matter if you miss, you can just keep going. With hotshot, if you miss, yeah, have fun. You're basically just going to be stuck behind. Now for the chest talents. For aces and eights, we have increases Dead Man's Hand damage from 30% to 50%, and for hotshot, we have increases the bonus armor from 50% to 100%. And then for the backpack talent, we have amplifies 1 extra shot when revealing your hand for aces and eights, and for hotshot, agents can miss a headshot before resetting the cycle. Now when it comes to chest and backpack talent, aces and eights hands down has hotshot beat. You're a sniper and you're already healing per kill, per headshot kill with hotshot. Increasing your bonus armor from 50 to 100% is null and void, not needed, aim better. Whereas aces gets another 20% amplified. And then for backpack talents, the only downfall with aces and eights is at minimum it takes 3 shots to proc the bonuses, where one of the buffs is only 2 shots. So being able to get that to 3 shots is quality of life and helps maintain the buff. It's not really required though. Whereas hotshot, just you can miss a shot before you inevitably fail. Now, before people get angry, yes, I'm aware, determined headhunter, don't miss shot, always procs, great. However, I'm just testing the sets at base. I'm not equating determined into it. I'm not equating headhunter into it. along with the fact that Determined Headhunter is a bug. It's not going to stick around forever. That's not how it worked in the PTS. That's not how they confirmed it, they being the devs, to work. So yeah. Anyway, considering only one of these 4 pieces actually has damage onto them, we might as well compare them all from the off and skip doing it chest versus chest, backpack versus backpack, chest and backpack versus chest and backpack. Let's just go straight in, balls deep. And here we have it. Yeah, Aces is doing 17.79% more. Yippee, I suppose. Right, the reason for this is, like I said with the previous one, is 30% amp beats out 20% amp. And certainly 50% amp will beat out 20% amp, regardless of the fact that Hotshot has an extra 15% MMR damage. In the grand scheme of things, this doesn't actually really equal that much. Now, there is going to be one thing that a lot of people are going to get confused by, simply just for the simple fact of when you add Headhunter into it and test your maximum damage, Hotshot will do more. The reason for this is the interaction between Headhunter and the MMR damage plus the amp. If you actually follow it through and you do 4-piece Aces, Headhunter and the gift with Perfect Vigilance, you'll notice that the difference between Aces and Hotshot at maximum stack with Headhunter is actually quite minimal. They basically just swap roles with near enough the exact same percent. However, if I may be allowed to do some of my musing now, the main reason I feel a lot of people are heading over more towards Hotshot than Aces, because they're both effectively as good or as bad as each other, depending on how you want to look at it, is 1, Determined Headhunter. It basically allows you to continually proc damage, which means you essentially, after 4 shots, have a 100% uptime on the buffs of Hotshot. 20% amp, armor on kill, essentially, and the magazine refill. So you've got infinite ammo, an increase in damage, and you can heal yourself just by killing things. Brilliant. Even with Aces, with Determined Headhunter, this isn't a thing. You will still need to get a minimum of 3 shots every 2 shots, which is obviously a physical impossibility. You can't hit twice in the same bullet unless you're running TAC 50, but no, never mind. So in terms of uptime, Hotshot under the Determined Headhunter scenario does win out. It also adds in a lot of survivability and quality of life for the player, being able to heal. Up until now, up until Determined, the best in slot talent on MMRs was Preservation, armor on kill. We no longer need to do that. With Hotshot we can put essentially whatever we want on. Determined is now best in slot. It's a free shot essentially, well, a free headshot essentially. But as a test, take Determined off your MMR, run Mantis or Nemesis, whatever you feel like, and then try and consistently and sustainably keep the Hotshot 4-piece buff at its maximum. So that's 5 headshot kills in a row you need with 0 misses. Try it. Let me know how it works. Unless you're like 95% accurate 100% of the time, Hotshot really actually isn't worth that much, which is kind of weird. It's a very powerful set, especially the 3-piece. The 3-piece bonuses have actually become pretty much the new sort of high-end farming raid setup. It's that powerful. It's kind of become the new meta, but not because of the 4-piece bonus. It's become the new meta for the 3-piece bonus. And this actually kind of makes me laugh, because when I first stated that I was going to be doing a video like this comparing Hotshot to Aces, I got hit with so many messages saying Aces is obsolete, it has been for years. Yet the damage difference between Aces and Hotshot is barely 2%, and it could literally go either way depending on your build. They're near enough identical in damage output. The only real difference between them is Hotshot has more quality of life things on it, not for damage, for you to stay alive. The whole stability thing is negligible, that's just something that you can work on personally. And when it comes to the armor on kill, sad to say it, but put preservation on, that's 20% armor on kill rather than the Hotshot's 10%. So yeah, like in terms of usability at this point, under this specific circumstance, Aces actually still wins, and yet Aces is obsolete. So I find that quite strange. Now, I say this in a weird manner. I'm not in favour of one over the other. In terms of what you could potentially do with a headhunter gear set or a sniping gear set, however you want to look at it, both Aces and Eights and Hotshot are actually very incredibly underwhelming. In terms of 3-piece bonuses, Hotshot clearly wins, but in terms of usability and playability, the Aces and Eights 4 set actually wins. And this is just in terms of damage. If you wanted to go for quality of life, obviously Hotshot does, but there are other things that we can put into a build that allows you to do the exact same thing that Hotshot actually does itself, and you could potentially also still get more damage. Also, adding in the simple fact of we now have the Ninja Byte Messenger bag, mixing and matching builds is never really been easier. Although it will be a damage drop off, you can make some seriously awesome quality of life headhunter / sniper builds. Now there is one thing that I would like to add to this, and although this is a little bit off mark, anyone else remember when Aces and Eights was like the meta? Aces and Eights SVD, boom, content cleared, easily cleared. Now although Aces and Eights in terms of practicality has lost out to Hotshot, Determined Headhunter, there is one thing that Aces will actually still excel at, and that is playing a DPS MMR, where Hotshot is actually probably more geared towards the headhunting side, considering all of its buffs are you have to get a headshot or headshot kill. Aces and Eights is just hit the target. And this is actually shown in a rather hilarious way. So, firstly, sorry for the rather intrusive edit out of the previous engagement, but this is my DPS Aces build. It's 4-piece Aces, perfect focus, and Providence backpack with opportunistic. I do try and aim more towards the head, however, spamming MMRs is always not that fun, and I am using Dread Edict. Whatever damage you are missing from your overall build, it is a crit build, not a headshot build. The reason for this is trying to spam heads with this thing is problematic, so I just kind of spam in general. The Dread Edict takes care of most of the damage side of things, whereas Aces and Eights will also help with that. Dread Edict also provides a larger shield than what Hotshot does, and the overall capability, I feel, under this specific scenario is far greater than what Hotshot is capable of. Hotshot will be quicker depending on your accuracy, as it will essentially be one shot, one kill. However, just going back to the whole Aces is obsolete, I personally just feel that Headhunter or one-shot Aces is obsolete. Utilising Aces in a DPS scenario is very much a thing, and it really does actually work well. If you're someone who likes using a focused M1A rifle build, this would potentially be more your style. They both basically play near enough identically, just this actually has just a tiny bit more damage, as well as a lot more survivability thanks to Dread Edict. And the reason I bring this up is because typically when I try and do comparisons like this, Heartbreaker versus Strikers, they're both very much DPS builds. One's a little bit more tanky, one's a lot more DPS. However, with comparing Hotshot and Aces, I kind of feel like it is unfair. Although they're both MMR builds, one is very much more clearly geared towards the one shot, one kill, whereas Aces, being a lot more forgiving and you just need to hit the target, I feel suits things like SVDs a lot more comfortably. I've even taken this build into raids as like a DPS role, and it performs perfectly fine. It out DPSs most of the AR standard raid builds you see going around. So it's, for me, it's not quite a fair comparison in this regard, simply just due to the fact of I personally feel the gear sets are intended to work very differently. With previously mentioned Strikers and Heartbreaker, they're both very, very high DPS builds. They're probably the two highest DPS gear set builds in the game outside of Hunter's Fury, which I've already covered as well. But in terms of Hotshot versus Aces, I feel Hotshot is more of a headhunter build and Aces is more of a potential DPS or focus build. A little bit more spam ability rather than that big one shot. So in a weird way, I actually kind of feel like both Hotshot and Aces are actually obsolete. I'm aware a lot of people argue more so for Aces being obsolete than Hotshot, but without Headhunter determined, Hotshot is in the exact same boat as Aces. It's just the simple fact of Hotshot works better with Headhunter determined, whereas Aces, I feel like a lot of people have skipped over the DPS MMR styled builds and just focus more on the one shot, one kill. So, are they any good? Well, personally for me, no. Mathematically as well, they're actually really not that great. With pretty much any Headhunter build in that regard, all of your damage is coming from Headhunter anyway. You could literally remove all of your Headhunter or Aces pieces and you will still most likely be one-shotting things on solo heroic, just because that is how much damage Headhunter is capable of. It is literally a 12.5 multiplier on your damage. 12.5. Like, just a lot of people argue that Perfect Glass Cannon is a very powerful chess piece because it's a 30% amp. 30%. 0.3. Headhunter 12.5. This is nuts. Admittedly, yes, the caveat is you need to get consecutive headshots, but still, when it comes to things like Aces and Hotshot, the gear sets themselves aren't really that great. What would happen if Headhunter didn't exist? You're not going to get that many headshot kills to even proc the talents from Hotshot. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Hotshot is good because Headhunter, but Headhunter is better because Hotshot. But then Headhunter doesn't need Hotshot to be good in the first place. It's a weird dynamic, and I really do feel the devs need to give us something to replace Chainkiller, Headhunter itself, with MMR builds. It's not so much that Hotshot is actually very good, it's just good with Headhunter. Aces and Eights is actually just better with Focused. I don't mean better than Hotshot, I mean Aces and Eights works better with Focused than it does Headhunter, which I also feel is something that a lot of people have skipped over. But yeah, there we have it. At base, Aces and Eights is actually 2% better than Hotshot. However, when you factor in the damage amplification from Chainkiller, Hotshot will do about 2.5% more than Aces and Eights. In terms of whether one is obsolete, quite frankly, just Chainkiller or Headhunter itself existing makes basically all gear sets for MMRs just obsolete at standard. And next time you feel like trying out Aces and Eights, maybe go for a more DPS style rather than a Headhunter style. Anyway, that just about does it for me. Have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health.